Nothingness, the final frontier, or just the beginning? When you say nothing exists, what you're really saying is that something exists. This is because nothing is something. Isn't there always something, even if that something is nothing? Isn't nothing something in and of itself? What is nothingness, this something that is nothing? It might be that this nothing is in fact everything that is, was, and ever will be, in a dimension lacking shape, form, mass, light, gravity, and even time. We may never be able to truly comprehend or even conceive of what this nothingness truly is. Perhaps this nothingness is the opposite of being, or perhaps it's being's mirror image, a sort of yin and yang. All things come from nothing, and all that now exists will again return to nothing. Everything that comes into existence from this nothingness must return to this nothingness. Nothing cannot exist without something existing, and something cannot exist without nothing existing. Before life as we know it came into existence, all that is wasn't, and all that now exists didn't. Nothingness is where all that now exists began. Before there was life, there was nothing. Perhaps within this nothingness lies the potential for all to become. Perhaps within this nothingness lies all that will ever exist. Perhaps all that now exists always existed and always will. From nothing comes all things. Is this even possible? Can anything, let alone everything, really come from nothing? How can anything come into existence unless it comes from nothing? At one point in time, nothingness was all that existed, and from this nothingness came all things, and all that is, all that was, and all that will ever be. This nothingness always was and always will be. You cannot have anything unless you first have nothing. Everything goes through a process of life and death, from being to non-being, from non-being to being. Everything begins at some point. The earth, sun, plants, animals, and people were all born, and one day everything will pass away and become no more. Everything will transform into something other than what it is now. There was a time when space, matter, light, and gravity did not exist, and from this nothingness all things came into being. Nothingness is where all that is, was, and all that ever will be will eventually, inevitably end up once again. Nothingness is where all life must begin, and where all life must end. It's a process of life and death, over and over again, endlessly, ceaselessly. From this nothingness comes all that is, and it is where all that became will end, an endlessly pulsating cycle of life and death. All that exists always did and always will. All that exists will go through a process of change, becoming something other than it is now. There was a time when all that now exists didn't, and there'll be a time when all that now exists won't, when time, space, light, and matter will no longer exist as they are now. Nothingness is immeasurable, invisible, and undetectable. Everything becomes nothing, and from this nothingness comes all that is, was, and ever will be. Everything, including time and space, will end one day, and when this day comes, time will stop, and the only thing that will remain is now, the present moment. It is hard to imagine nothingness, a point of seemingly no return where time stops, space isn't, and all the forces of the universe become something yet unknown, understood, or explainable. In this nothingness, all the forces of the universe cease to be. Nothingness may exist for an incredibly long time, or perhaps it may last for only a millisecond. Nothingness too must become something other than it is, because even nothing stays as it is forever. Nothingness, like all things, must change. It must become something. Everything in the universe will eventually collapse in on itself as the pressure of gravity transforms all that is into a realm of pure nothingness. Gravity plays a central role in turning all that is into all that isn't. On the other hand, dark matter tends to work as an anti-gravitational force. Gravity and dark matter play a game of back and forth, an endless cycle of push and pull, in and out, creating both life and death. From this nothingness will again come life, beginning an unending cycle of life and death. Out of this nothingness comes life, from nothing to everything, and then from everything, nothing. We are unable to experience this nothingness because we live in a dimension of being, a dimension of time and space, a three-dimensional world of light, matter, gravity, etc. Imagine a time when all that now exists didn't. When all becomes nothing, watch out. This is when life and all things begin, from nothing. In mathematics, 0 represents nothing. With math, you cannot have anything unless you first have 0. Nothing is where everything must begin, and contained within this nothingness lies the potential for everything that is to become. The law of conservation says that energy may change form, but it will always exist. The energy of the universe has always existed, and it always will. Energy, like all things, does not, and in fact cannot stay the way it is forever. It too must become something other than it is. Nothing stays the way it is forever. Everything, including nothing, changes over time. There can be nothing without nothing. Within this nothingness lies the potential for all things. Within this nothingness lies everything needed to become everything. In our world, opposites abound. Black and white, light and dark, up and down, wet and dry, and nothing and everything. These opposites go together. They are inseparable, indivisible, and unified. Where there is light, there must be darkness, and where there is darkness, there must be light. How would you be able to tell the difference between light and dark if there was only light or if there was only darkness? Nothing implies everything, and everything implies nothing. All that now exists will become something other than what it is now, and everything that now exists will become nothing once again. In this nothingness, all exists in a different form of reality. In this nothingness, all that was will always be. Nothingness cannot exist in and of itself. You cannot have nothing without having something. Nothing cannot exist without something existing. In other words, if nothing exists, then something must exist as well. So to have anything, there first must be nothing. From nothing all begins, and everything comes into being. Nothingness is everything that is, was, and ever will be, in an unexpressed form. Nothingness has within it the potential for all to become. Nothingness is where all things begin and where all things must end. From nothing all becomes. From all that becomes all must return back to where it all began, nothingness. Life is circular. From nothing comes all, and from all nothing returns. Like all things, nothing cannot remain the way it is forever. It too must change. Change is an inevitable part of life. Everything, including nothingness, will not stay as it is forever. Everything, including nothingness, must change with time. From nothingness comes everything. From everything comes nothingness. Nothingness has within it the potential to become everything that was, is, and ever will be. Nothingness may be different may be a different form of reality. Nothingness may be the opposite of reality as we know it. Perhaps nothingness is true reality. Nothing in this world stays as it is forever, including nothingness. It too must change and become something other than what it is. Nothingness becomes all that is, all that ever was, and all that ever will be. Nothingness has within it the potential to become all things, a potential that must be realized. In this nothingness is everything. Nothing is what we all become. This nothingness is where everything begins, and it is where everything will end. Nothing must evolve and change, becoming everything, and everything that becomes will eventually become everything that isn't. Everything is on a journey back to nothingness, a journey back to where life began, back to where life will begin once again. This is the inevitable and endless cycle of life.